What's good, y'all? It feels like we are flying through these preseason preview videos. Here we are going with the Sacramento Kings, one of the biggest surprises of the NBA last year, making all the way to the 4th seed out west. Very surprising. I doubt any person had them that high. Of course, last year they hired their new head coach, Mike Brown. De'Aaron Fox solidified himself as a star in the league, who also won Clutch Player of the Year, All-Star appearance for him too. Domantas Sabonis, he had his full first season with Sacramento and was just amazing there, making All-NBA third team for him. All around an amazing season for Sacramento, but the real question is, can they continue that success and build upon it? Before we get into that though, I do want to remind you guys, this is the full list of teams that I either already have or are going to in the future make preseason preview videos on. If you see your favorite team on there and it's checked off, click the link in the description. It'll bring you to the playlist of all of them. If you see your favorite team on there and it's not checked off, write down in the comments down below and I'll move it up the list a little bit so I can get it out quicker for you guys. And with that being said, let's talk about the Kings' notable additions this offseason. There's no real blockbuster additions for Sacramento this offseason, with the most notable guys being Chris Duarte and JaVale McGee. Sacramento saw the success that they had last season and basically just said, let's run it back and see if we could just kind of get better with just being together as a group. They focused on just keeping their key rotational pieces this offseason, re-signing Harrison Barnes to a new deal. He was amazing for them pretty much this whole season as that veteran leadership guy in the starting lineup. They also re-signed Trey Lyles, who had some really good games in the playoffs for them, shooting off the bench. And then last but certainly not least, they also extended Domantas Sabonis, so now he's under contract for the foreseeable future as well. But talking about their actual additions, Chris Duarte is very young in NBA years, but old in actual years. He was a pretty old rookie coming in, and he had a down season last year with Indiana. They're going more just towards their youth movement, I guess. Didn't really see him having an impact in the rotation. So they traded him away. Sacramento bought low. Hopefully he can come back and, get his efficiency back up and be more of a scorer for them. And then when it comes to JaVale McGee, when he signed with Dallas last offseason, I thought that was going to be a pretty underrated signing. He obviously didn't really end up having much of an impact for Dallas. But I still think if he can go back to at least a little bit of what he was for the Lakers or something like that, just come off the bench for Sacramento, play some defense, block some shots, because they really struggled with their defense, especially at the big position with rim protection and with guarding the pick and roll. Hopefully JaVale McGee can come out there, play a few minutes, and play some defense in those minutes. And that's it. That's all they really need for him. And if he could do that, it's an amazing signing. And like I said before, since Sacramento was focusing on retaining their key rotational pieces, they didn't really lose out on anyone crazy, but there still was a little bit of roster turnover. Terrence Davis was pretty good for Sacramento last year, coming off their bench, giving them some shooting and some scoring. And Chimezie Metu was a good front court depth piece, but he's out there playing in Phoenix now. If I'm a Kings fan, I'm not really tripping about losing Terrence Davis or Chimezie Metu, if I'm being honest. Having Terrence Davis off your bench is cool. Like I said, he adds a little bit of shooting, a little bit of scoring. But with Malik Monk having his breakout season, being in 6th Man of the Year conversations, hopefully he can continue that and bring that, up a level as well to kind of replace that production. Also, Chris Duarte, like I said before, also he had a little bit of a down season last year, but if he can get his efficiencies back up, his rookie season he shot 36% from 3. If he can get back up to that to get, some production from the 3-point line, he can easily replace those Terrence Davis minutes. And then with Chimezie Metu, he played a little bit of power forward for them, a little bit of small ball 5 as well. But with them bringing back Trey Lyles, they're kind of just investing in him to run that small ball 5 area or that backup power forward. Also with them bringing in JaVale McGee, maybe they are trying to go more of a traditional backup center because they really didn't have anyone like that last season. A little bit of Rashawn Holmes, who's not on the roster anymore. A little bit of Alex Len, who they did bring back as well, but I don't expect him to be anything crazy in the rotation. With that being said though, let's take a look at the potential rotation going into this next season. Since they brought back majority of their guys, this rotation is almost exactly as it was last year. The starting lineup is exactly how it was a year ago, with De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, and Domantas Sabonis. And then off their bench, they got Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk, Chris Duarte, Trey Lyles, and JaVale McGee. I kind of like the idea of running it back for the Sacramento Kings. There really wasn't any crazy, free agents that they could have signed. There was a little bit of rumors of Draymond Green maybe, but realistically that wasn't going to happen. I don't see Draymond ever leaving the Warriors. But this allows them to really just kind of grow and get, more continuity together with them as a roster. Like I mentioned in the intro, last year was the first year of Mike Brown being the head coach of Sacramento. So us having him keep the same players to kind of just grow together as a roster, together in the system with each other, him grow as a coach more with these guys as well, I think it's just going to benefit everyone. Then you got to think too, they were the top 3 seed, forcing a Game 7 against the defending champs with a top 5 lottery pick rookie in their starting lineup. Keegan Murray was super efficient in his rookie season shooting the ball. Now going into year 2, you want to see if maybe he can expand his game and maybe create for himself some more instead of just, feeding off those catch and shoots. Maybe he can add an extra layer to that offense where he can create for himself. Also, De'Aaron Fox, first-time All-Star last year. I'm sure he's coming into this season trying to solidify himself as a superstar, as a top point guard in this NBA. He got a little bit of taste of what winning's like, finally made it to the playoffs. He's been losing in Sacramento for his entirety of his career. I'm sure he doesn't want to let go of that. He's going to be coming hard. I'm sure Sabonis has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder too after his, disappointing playoff series. His fans were getting on his ass. I'm sure he's heard that. I'm sure he's working through that through this whole offseason. He's going to come back stronger. And speaking of those two guys, that leads us into this team's strength, and that's just their offense. One of the reasons Sacramento's offense is so good is because it's led by the dynamic duo of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. De'Aaron giving them an efficient 25 points with 6 assists. Sabonis doing a little bit of everything, scoring, rebounding, playmaking efficiently as well. He had 14 triple-doubles last year, which is incredible. When these two guys are on the court together, it's hard to stop. I really like how De'Aaron and Sabonis play off of each other. When Sabonis has the ball in the half court, it's more of that slower pace, those post-ups, playmaking out the post, or those dribble handoffs with shooters like Kevin Huerter or Malik Monk. He will also punish you inside. He'll clean up the glass too, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. He'll do whatever, led the league in rebounding. And then when De'Aaron's running the offense, it's more of that pace pushing, get into his mid-range pull-up, getting to the rim and finishing through guys, over guys, whatever it is. I think the main key about it, though, is the fact that both of their star players are both willing passers and very good passers at that as well. That allows them to kick the ball out to their shooters that they're surrounded by. I already mentioned Kevin Huerter before. Malik Monk, also a great shooter. Harrison Barnes, Trey Lyles, Chris Duarte, who they brought in, if he can get back up to that level as well. Keegan Murray, I completely forgot to mention as well. And then I mentioned Malik Monk as a shooter, but I also really like him in that spark plug 6 man of the year role. Like, he really could win that award next season. Just come into the game and immediately light it up, shooting threes, getting to the rim, whatever it is, he will light it up. But that does lead us to their weakness, though, and it's their defense, more specifically their rim protection. JaVale McGee averaged 8.5 minutes per game last season for the Dallas Mavericks, and he comes on to the Sacramento Kings and immediately becomes their best shot blocker. Sabonis and Keegan Murray both tied for first place in blocks per game last season for the Kings at 0.5. I've already mentioned it, and I'm sure you guys remember as well how bad Sabonis was defensively in the playoffs. And, obviously that's why they brought in JaVale McGee to really, be that defensive-minded big. And I think he will help. I'm not saying he's going to fix the issue, but I think he will definitely help. But when you really come down to it, the only guys that I look at as defenders on this roster is Davion Mitchell and Harrison Barnes. And don't get me wrong, Davion is one of the best guard defenders in the league. He can really, muck it up for a bunch of different guys. But at the end of the day, I definitely value rim protection over guard defense, I guess you would say. And then with Harrison Barnes, he's that wing stopper, which again is very much needed. You need that on your team if you want to be good. But at the same time, I value rim protection over pretty much anything on defense. We saw last year they pretty much would just try to outscore teams and get into shootouts. They were a part of the highest scoring game ever against the Clippers last year. Obviously, it did work because they were a top 4 seed. Will it work this year? I'm not too sure. The amount of just, teams that are super good in the West right now, I've said it pretty much any preseason preview of a West team I've said so far. It's super deep. So if you just drop a few of those games because you can't outscore, the shots aren't falling, whatever, they can really fall in the standings. So hopefully they can, kind of lock in on defense this year. Maybe JaVale McGee comes in and he's just resurged and really does make the biggest difference. I don't think so, but I mean, hey, you never know. Now getting to the ceiling and the floor of the Sacramento Kings. Starting off with the ceiling, I have them repeating as the 3rd seed like last year, But this year, I get them going to the second round, unfortunately losing in the second round though. In this scenario, with another year under his belt playing under Mike Brown and his system, De'Aaron Fox solidifies himself as a superstar. He's in MVP conversations, clutch player of the year conversations as well, just really closing out games for the Sacramento team, as well as playing a full year with Sabonis under his belt. Those two guys lead Sacramento to the best offense in the entire league. Unfortunately, though, they're just not on that same tier as those Lakers teams or those Suns teams or those Nuggets teams. They do fall to one of those guys in the second round. It's still steps, though, for Sacramento. Last year you made it to the playoffs. This year, in this situation at least, you win a playoff series. Maybe then you start to add a little bit to your team. Instead of just running it back, you add to it and then get over that hump to make it to the conference finals, make it to the finals. And then for the floor for Sacramento, I have them all the way down at the 7th seed in the play-in tournament. I do have them winning the play-in tournament, but being a first-round exit because just that's a tough matchup to have in the first round. In this situation, like I mentioned before, their defense will lead to them having a lot of shootouts, which, unfortunately, they will drop a few of those, may miss some game winners or just miss some shots in general, and their offense isn't up to par, and they fall in the standings. It's a super deep West this year. I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys, super deep West this year. They fall down to that play-in tournament, get the rough matchup in the first round, and just, it's the end of their season like that. Let me know where you guys think the Sacramento Kings are going to be in the standings this season. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch ya.